So I'm very happy to welcome you all tonight to this evening. It is the second part of two sessions that we planned as the Power to the People group. We already heard last time that our name is maybe also something we need to rethink about, but for now we are called Power to the People, and we are a group of European NGOs, non-profit organizations that want to help create a transnational civil society. So what we do here together with you is trying to make civil society go beyond borders and try to go into a common dialogue together today. And my name is Sarah Händel. I'm from the German NGO Mehr, Demokratie. We are an organization that since 30 years tries to open up the democratic structures for more citizens' participation. And I have the pleasure of being the moderator today. And just to say this again, it was already mentioned in the invitation, because we will do breakouts later on, which means group discussions. We had to choose the language is English today. So everybody has to talk in English, and we have no translators because that's just not possible to have that many translators for the small groups that we go into later. So that's a little unfortunate because we know that not everybody is able to take then part, but also it's kind of the future of a transnational society that there has to be a common language that we can interact in. And I want to tell you, it's also written in the chat, there are automatically generated subtitles. So everyone who wants the help of the subtitles to have easier access to understanding, then you can choose your preferred language in the subtitle category. And I mean, they are automatically generated, so it means they are not perfect subtitles, but still they are pretty good and are able to support you a little bit if the English is not your natural language. So, and first I want to give you a short overview of how the event of today is structured, so you know what's to come. And I guess a lot of people have participated maybe in the event of last week, where we had a panel of perspectives with different spotlights and different inputs on the topics of climate fatigue, climate anxiety, and strategies of climate activists, and maybe better ways of reaching more people and activate them for the common cause of climate policy fights. And one input giver was Sven Hillenkamp, and we are very happy that he again today took some time to come and join us in the event. And the first 25 minutes we will use to talk to Sven again about some points you already mentioned in the last session, but maybe to deepen them a bit. And at this point, I just want to say thank you, Sven, that you are here again with us. And we will have 25 minutes to get kind of in the mood again. And then we will do the breakouts. And I just want to tell you now that these breakouts, we have tried to design them in kind of a special way, because they should provide you as a person space to share your personal experience, your emotions, your thoughts on specific questions. And the questions we generated out of the last discussion we had, I will tell you later what the questions are. But I just want to make you understand the kind of aim we have with the breakouts. And that's kind of to engage in a different kind of dialogue with each other, which just goes a little deeper in just an argument exchange. Because we can say that normally in social media or talk shows, what we normally witness is something we can label as discussions. And the word discussion comes from Latin and discutere, and that originally means to smash or to shake up. So in a discussion, everyone tries to have the best striking argument to win the debate and to convince the other parties. So that's exactly what we don't want to do today. We want to try to create a different kind of conversation that is more a dialogue than a discussion. And dialogue instead is a word which is composed through the words dia, which means through, and logos, which means sense or sense making. So a dialogue is a format that gives people the chance to create something new by honestly looking at what is there together. And for that to happen, we want to try out a new format for the breakout rooms that normally is working especially good for groups with very different opinions, very polarized groups. But it is also a format that just helps to create deeper connections between the people who are getting into the dialogue, and maybe a stronger form of empathy and a stronger form of connectedness. And I very much believe that when we want to be a movement with impact, that we have to have this strong basis of connectiveness between each other. So I will explain you again how the format works before we go into the breakout rooms. I just wanted you to hear now already what the aim of it is, but I will explain it later again, so no worries. For now, I just want to say you the plan, that we have then 45 minutes of breakout rooms with this specific format. And at the end, we come back together into the plenary here, and we will reflect a bit on how the exercise felt for you. And then I want to propose you a project at the end that you maybe want to try out, and it is designed to even integrate more people than are here today. It's a project that you can do yourself to, in fact, deepen also the dialogue about climate change with new people. So that's the plan for today. And before we start with it, we have thought that maybe to get into the mood together, we will start with a short artistic impulse. It's a short video of 4 minutes that I now ask Max to play for us. And it is with music, so please don't be shocked. It might be a little loud, so you have to turn down the volume yourself. It's not for us to regulate it. So see you in 4 minutes. Max. Yeah, I hope the sound was okay. I mean, that's a bit the challenge of these Zoom meetings and these happenings that are taking place online. I mean, some things still can be better, but I hope you kind of got the atmosphere of the movie. And also maybe you got that it ended on a positive note because the person found a key into her hand. And that's a bit what we are looking for today also. Like, what are the keys to getting more impactful and to getting more people into the climate movement in a good way? So, and yeah, I want to start now to go a little deeper into that points with Sven. And I just have to tell you all that we had a lot of positive feedback after the last event, especially also to the points that Sven mentioned, and to the points where we as a movement have to do things better and maybe not take all the left values and struggles into one movement. And there we have responsibility to do better. But whilst we're talking about responsibility, I wanted to ask Sven, because it's just something that happened right now for all the other people from other countries. We just had in Germany the first election of a right-wing politician into an important political position. So for Germany, it was quite a shock that now a person from the extreme right could gain a majority of 53% against a conservative candidate. But what was more shocking to me, even, maybe a little bit more shocking, was the reaction of the Conservative Party. And the head of our Conservative Party said after that thing happened, he said, okay, we understood. We will make the Greens and their woke culture our main enemy now. And I just wanted to ask you, Sven, like, what do you think? How does these kind of statements affect the dynamics of our society and the environmental movement? And maybe also what you think should be the reaction of the Green Party, because at the last point you told us the last time, you were talking especially also about the task of political leadership in this movement.
Yeah, should I? Am I supposed to answer in English, because I yes. Wrote that I was speaking German? Okay. Yeah, I think probably the main problem with the uprise or the getting stronger of these right-wing parties is that the conservatives and even the classical liberal parties, not in the American sense of liberal, but in the classical European sense of liberal parties, that these parties do most fear now their extreme right-wing competitors. So before the last national election in Germany, the Greens were perceived by, at least by the conservatives and even by the Social Democrats, as the main competitor. So they had to ecologize their party manifestos and policies and rhetorics. And now the fear has turned to the right, and this will have probably quite an effect on their rhetorics and even on their politics. An effect that we even see now, that they abandon ecological and climate positions, that the resistance, the culture war heatens up, and yeah, that it's getting harder and harder to do something in the right direction with these parties, because they are so afraid of losing even more votes to these right-wing parties. And yeah, so I think that will have an impact, and it just enforces all the other impacts, because this is what we talked about last time, that we are in phase 2 now. Phase 1 was that climate change was a new issue. It was not politicized and ideologized as all the other issues are. It was new. There was not so much resistance. Lobbies were not prepared. There was no organized backlash. So now all these lobbies are mobilized. The backlash is going on, and climate policies get more and more concrete, that it's really about traffic and it's about heating systems and so on. So it gets harder and harder by the day. And this is just one more development, these right-wing parties, that makes it even harder. And we can see where this can go in France and of course in the US, that it can, in the end, the risk is that it blocks all climate and ecological progress, of course. So it's very risky. And what you mentioned, the Greens, I think the society as a whole has to really fight against these, not only, of course, not taking over these rhetorics, but now it's a lot about turnout. So there is a huge part of the population, as we saw 2018 and 19, is with the climate movement. The question is whether we can show it or not. Do these people turn up? And this really depends on how left-wing politicians and also people who represent the climate movement, how they are able to energize the movement. And you can only energize the movement by really lashing out, by really using strong rhetorics. That is really important. That this is what Greta was doing in the beginning. Or if you want to have a bad example, what Trump is really good at, if he's under attack, he is able to mobilize and energize his base. And I don't see this really right now. I see a lot of people arguing rationally and saying, oh, that the German minister for climate change and the economy is saying sorry that some legislation was too complicated and so on. I mean, that's fine too, but you have to lead the counterattack in order to mobilize your own base. Otherwise, it will be very hard to fight against these new tendencies.
Yes. So, I mean, in the talk we had before to prepare this event, you also said something about who has which role in a society on which level. So what are the tasks of the Green Party and what are more the tasks of us as a whole society in getting out of this circle of blockage that could be, well, a big problem if the right-wing people get stronger?
Yeah, I mean, as I see it, or as most, I think the most part of sociologists and people in political sciences see it, is that the people who already vote for these right-wing extremist parties, they are more or less lost for, at least for climate and ecological issues. So this was a little bit what we said the last time. It is probably much better to invest in reaching and convincing and mobilizing the flexible center of the society, those people who sometimes vote social democratic or Democrats in the US and sometimes conservative, these 10 or maybe even 20% who are flexible in the center, and not to aim at those people who really have gained some huge distance to society, to media, to science, the state as a whole, all institutions. I mean, that probably, I would say this is not the right strategy to focus on them. We should focus on the center.
Yeah, the problem is a bit that exactly the parties of the center, which is the conservative parties, that they, and I mean, and I said it in the first citation, that they actually then choose to fight against the Greens instead of fighting against the right. So it's kind of the question of how we as a movement can do something to break that dynamic, or if this is something we have no chance of influencing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I see the possibilities that the movement has is to, I mean, I think we cannot really influence those who choose more radical methods. I think, I don't think that anyone, not me or not anyone else, has really the influence to say, oh, you know, this is not very smart to do this. And then everybody says, oh no, I'm totally convinced by this. So I think there are certain parts of the movement which will just go on that path, disruptive protests and other things that potentially marginalize the movement. But I think what we can do is those people who want to reach the center of society, which we have to now, that we did a good job concerning the more left alternative ecological parts of society to mobilize them. But now the movement can do a lot more to really reach the center. And this is by using a totally different language, different words, different values, like home, like wealth, like security, like family, health, and so on, values that are not on the right or on the left, that everyone can identify with. So that's a huge thing. Then to just not do all the things that marginalize us, which is not only the disruptive protests, but also all the culture war issues, to just avoid them too. And yeah, just not to be too different from the majority, not to talk in a different way, meet in a different way, discuss in a different way. I mean, there has to just to be one part of the civil society who is just like the majority, or this center we want to reach. So this is something we could do. And then I think there are huge questions which concern the whole political left, or even all democratic parties. I mean, the huge underlying problem is globalization and shareholder value and such things that caused the social progress to stop. I mean, the huge success of social democratic politics through the whole last century was based on that the national state had some impact on social justice and the retribution of attribution of wealth, and this has gone lost. And that's why a huge part of the population is very frustrated and feels that the political elites are not working for them anymore. And then there's the other question of mass immigration. And these two combined, that people are very afraid of losing their job, losing their social status, not taking part in the national wealth, and mass immigration at the same time. These are issues that not the climate movement can solve. These are concern the whole political left, or even liberal and conservative parties.
Yeah, thank you. That's yeah, it's a hard topic to confront. But I want to come back to another thing that you also repeated now, and that you repeated last time very definitely. That was the point that you think that the strategy of groups like Last Generation and Stop Oil, with the blockades and the street blockades, have more of a negative backlash and should be stopped. But now we just had a new study coming out in Germany, which actually is looking at this topic, and it finds that even if only like 26% of people like support the protest form of blockade, still 41% of people judge them as a legitimate form of protest. And that's a normal protestation, which is a moderate form of protest, also only has a value of 52% that call them legitimate. So even if people don't support and don't like say, I wouldn't do it, or I don't think it's the best way, they still like kind of give it a legitimate force in this kind of situation. So how would you comment on the findings of that study?
Yeah, I mean, this study compares 3 groups. People are asked whether they support climate policies, and before that, they are confronted either with some kind of disruptive protest, blocking traffic or throwing food at paintings, or just with normal, just regular street protests. And the study shows that there is almost no difference. So in this study, there's no damage done by the disruptive protests, but also no gain. And the most positive studies that are around now, or that we have right now, are these. There is no effect studies, and this is not really satisfying. I mean, if you look at how many people worked with these kind of protests now for like almost 1.5 years, and the general support for climate policies is even diminished by a little. So it's not going up like it was in the beginning. And then you have these studies that show there is no gain and no damage, which is, if you look at how much media coverage these actions actually got, they got more media coverage than the whole first climate movement with Greta, and this is really huge, and still there is no gain. And then you have this other study, which is not an experiment, but reality, in which we mentioned last time in Berlin, that you actually have 47% of the people who say we said no to the question in Berlin, whether Berlin should be climate neutral in 2030, also because of disruptive protests, because they wanted to raise their voice against them. So there we have a real backlash. And so you have either no effect or a very negative one. And this is just...
Yeah, but we still have to say that the study, which was about the referendum in Berlin, I mean, they listed many reasons why people voted no, and that was not like the main reason this 47% gave to vote no. Like, it was a kind of multi-factor situation, but also they said they voted no also with this kind of aim to get back at the climate activists. But you just said it. At least what the activists always gain, and I think in every country it's kind of the same, what they do gain is a lot of media attention. And wouldn't you say that this media attention could maybe used a little bit more productively, that they maybe up to now didn't use it good enough to make a contribution to the official discussion, because they are in the talk shows now and they are giving interviews and they are giving the space to talk? And would you say that they use this attention wisely, or wouldn't it maybe better, instead of like putting free policy proposals that are relatively small, that sometimes they do, wouldn't it be better to put more an emphasis on democratic participation, like on a structural point, that we need to alter the structure to be more effective in implementing policy goals in the climate area?
Yeah, maybe. I think basically they are doing what I have seen. They are doing a pretty good job. I think or sometimes even an excellent job. I mean, the backlash that we had in Berlin, and that there is no effect overall nationwide, I would never contribute this to their media appearances, because I think they did it really good. I mean, they were calm, rational, nice, professional, and of course you could argue they could propose more complex policies instead of these very, very basic ones. That would be good probably, and they should, in my view, focus on one person that really gets known, like Luisa got known, and Greta, and like political leaders get known, like Obama or Martin Luther King. I think because so much is about trust in this transformation, and you don't trust people you don't know. So you really have to have people there who get really well known by the public. I mean, these things you could do, and of course they could avoid all leftist vocabulary and only talk in these values that are more accessible for the center and so on. But I don't think, I mean, the action in the beginning is saying so much to just block regular people who want to whatever go to work or pick up their children and so on. I think 95% of the battle is lost there. And as like I said, I think they did basically an excellent job, and still I think it's really more about the protest form, and these people who are that good at talking about things should use it for other purposes, basically.
Okay, the question is though, if they get the media attention, if they stop with the blockade, the question is if they then still get any media attention to say anything. But okay, I mean, well, I wanna ask another thing though, because the study I mentioned before about the legitimacy of protest forms, it also finds that 46% of all people don't find any form of protest legitimate. And that's also something you said to us yesterday, that like half of the society would not go to any protest, no matter what form, because just the idea of protest doesn't resonate with them. And we have another study that shows that in Eastern Germany, 2/3 of people consider it totally pointless to engage politically, because they just think there's no way that you can influence politics by being engaged. So I still wonder, like, how can we build bridges for people that don't want to be in a movement? Like, where do we build them bridges to? Like, bridges to where?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, these are two different phenomena. People in Eastern Germany who, after living in a dictatorship and then having the experience that Western Germany controlled everything during the huge transformation that they went through, which is really important. It's just a small point, but they had a huge transformation. Probably they hate transformations now. It's just an interesting footnote that talking to them, now we will have a great transformation. Probably most of them almost start to puke because they went through a big one and it was really not easy. So, okay. But I think this is a different phenomenon than liberals, always in the classical sense of Europe, liberal parties and conservatives. They cannot be reached by street protests. The whole phenomenon that the individual is melting in a kind of mass of people where everyone is shouting the same thing and they're waving flags and screaming slogans and so on. This is something, and it's the people against the power. Everything is leftist about that. So you don't reach conservatives like that. So you have to find totally different forms. And I mean, there are very easy forms. It's just political parties. I think this is also something strange about the activist left, that they always ponder, what could we do in a democracy to impact politics? There isn't a very easy way. It's just to become a member of a political party and to influence that party, and either as a more regular member or to just try to really become some kind of voice for that party. So there is a way that is often forgotten or not talked about that actually can work. It's one way of many. Other ways are it's just the media, that it's not about the streets so much anymore, that podcasts and social media have huge power, and if you are able to produce videos and podcasts, and you can reach millions and millions without doing any street protest, of course. I mean, there are many ways.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that, like creating this new kind of actor in society that is more neutral, that doesn't rely on any kind of activism forms, that is kind of a mental movement that people can rely on in their like opinions and values somehow, or on the topic on climate change. But how can, if you not have movements or any form of engagement, how can the normal people how they can be part of it, or make this go to other people, you know? Like, it just feels like, okay, it's just a consumer perspective. Then I can consume maybe a good video from a very famous person who has a lot of reach, and maybe I think, yeah, that was a good talk or something, but what can I do with this kind of impulse? How can I give it into the society again as a normal person?
Yeah, I mean, the basic form would just be a national organization. Like if you go back to the civil rights movement, of course they also protested, and of course they also organized boycotts and such things. But the base was and also that was producing these people who could reach millions via the media, like Martin Luther King, was the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. So there is an organization which is pretty much like a political party. And then you could maybe have some element as marches or demonstrations, but you also have the normal participation that you had in the NAACP, that you have local chapters and people are discussing policies and strategies. And then you have people who try to reach the public who are representing the organization and the cause. So yeah, I mean, these are just the regular means of organizing politics in a democracy, I think. The difference would be in, like I said, the language used, the forms, the values, the policies, and in really focusing on speaker personalities, because I think that is really crucial, which I said last time. You cannot reach. It's so much about enthusiasm and so much about trust that you need some kind of, call it an Obama figure, or what Greta did in her time when she was very active and so on. You need these people, and you don't have these people. You have people who do really great job on the leftist part of the movement, but you don't have well-known center people who reach the part of society that we have to reach now.
Yeah, I understand this, but the problem is a bit that we are all like normal people here. We are maybe part of a party even, or part of a movement, or part of an activist group. But as long as this organization you're talking about, this kind of more neutral organization that has a good leader that is also charismatic and energizes people, until we don't have that, like, don't you think there's any way that the small people, like, how can they take the hints you give us, like they're not talking in leftist terms, like how can I take these instructions that you give me and bring them into my environment? Like, how can I do that? What's your proposal for being like acting differently than activists did now, in trying to bridge the gap to the other people who are maybe
but I think this is what you were doing now since 2018. I mean, all these groups like Parents for Future and Psychologists for Future, and I mean there are so many groups all over the place. And and I have been a part of many of these groups, and I talk to many of these groups, and these are just totally regular people, mothers and fathers and so on, with little time, because they have a work that is really taking their time and energy, and still they find the possibility to meet either physically or via Zoom and so on once a week. So they're doing it. The only difference would be that you really explicitly decide to now try out a strategy to reach the center, because what we have now is that almost all these groups I'm talking to are mixed groups. You have one half probably, which is more to the whatever radical left or woke type, and the other one is more center. But in the public, I would say 99% of the cases, you only hear the more leftist half on Twitter, the social media accounts, and even the huge actions and so on, the debates, the people who represent the movement and so on. And the other part is more silent and probably a little bit afraid to speak up and to criticize, because you can get quite some backlash online or even in these groups. So these people have to form, first locally and then nationally, an alternative. And like they started their local Parents for Future group or Psychologists for Future group. And that went pretty well. And I see no problem to do that now. And then you have an evolutionary process of that you find people who can talk and represent the movement. And there will be a natural competition who does this the best. And then you find someone like it has been in all movements like the civil rights movements or women's movement or the workers' movements and so on.
Okay, thank you very much, Sven. I think we stopped the discussion between us here, because I think it opened up very good the field of like reflecting on how every single one of us can maybe with just a little change have a maybe different impact, or maybe just by encouraging other people that are part of these groups to speak out more or something like that. But like, I think it's opening up some kind of spaces where we can go into more deeply, and that we want to do in the breakout groups that we will start in a second. And I promised you before that I will explain you again how these breakout group works. And I noticed that it's all a bit ironic, because Sven already now like told us a lot of times that we shouldn't be that different, you know, from the normal people. And still today I want to try with you something new, because I'm not convinced that being different always has to be an exclusionary thing. I also think that for us as a group that want to be more impactful, that we should have a good connection to each other and should have a deep connection on our values to then be able to go out and maybe speak differently also. So whatever, I mean, so even if Sven would maybe say what we try now is maybe the wrong approach, I would still like to invite you all to try it out and to just see how it feels to you, and just see it as an experiment that you maybe like or you maybe don't. So I'm gonna explain you now how the experiment works, and it's not that complicated. You all will be in breakout rooms in a second. We will assemble you in groups of 4 to 5 people. And when you are in your group, I really invite you to put your video on so you can see each other and really take part in this exercise. So not just listen, but be a part of it. And then when you are in your groups, we will send you via chat 2 questions. And I will ask you to answer the 2 questions in 2 rounds. And it works like that. You get the first question, and then every person has exactly 3 minutes to answer this question. And in these 3 minutes, the other people don't interrupt that person. They don't ask questions. They don't make comments. They do what we call is active listening. So you just concentrate on what you hear, and you try to keep an open mind, and you try to be empathic about it. And after that 3 minutes, the next person speaks. And we do that with 2 rounds. So I give you 1 question, you do 1 round, and I give you a second question, and you do another round where everybody can speak 4 minutes. And when you speak, we invite you to try to not rely on abstract theories or rational arguments, but try to speak from your heart and try to speak about your own experiences, maybe also about your emotions, and try to reflect upon where you stand, why you stand, what is important to you, when you are active or not. Like, we try to go into this kind of reflective mode and speak about personal lived experiences. And we want to see if we all do that, if it may create a different kind of dialogue that gives you a more kind of a shared sense of why we are all doing this together. So that's the exercise. We will now assemble you into the groups. Then you will have the 2 questions in the chat. I would recommend you choose 1 person who takes the time and always says after 3 minutes, the next person's turn is on. And then you do this for the 2 questions, and then you have a 3rd round, which is a reflection round where everybody has 2 minutes to speak about how they felt doing this exercise. It sounds a bit complicated. It's not at all when you do it. It's maybe one last thing I have to tell you too. When you speak and you have your 3 minutes and you start speaking, and then after 2 minutes, nothing else is on your mind or nothing comes out, then please accept just that there is a pause. Like, the group can be in silence for a couple of seconds, nothing bad happens then, because pauses are also important. And often after you pause a bit, there will still something come up that you still want to say. And if nothing comes up, that is also fine, because your time is your time, and the 3 minutes will stick with you, and only then the next person speaks. It doesn't matter if you fill your 3 minutes with things to say. Well, that said, I hope you enjoy the exercise, and Max will now assemble you into the breakout rooms, and then I will send you the questions into the chat, and we will have 45 minutes doing this exercise. Have a nice time. Welcome back, everyone. Nice, we are all here again. Well, I first really want to thank you all that you stick with it, and I think a lot of people really got through it and didn't leave or anything. So I'm very happy, and I want to thank you for having the courage of trying this. So we just wait, yeah. Okay, a few people did leave, not everybody stuck, but a big group. So I'm curious. I would like to invite 2 or 3 people to just share with the whole group how they felt about this exercise. I mean, you already did this in your group to reflect a bit of how you liked it, this kind of method, and it would be nice to hear some voices to share this with the whole group. Is there anybody who wants to? Don't be shy. Yeah.
I'm happy to share.
Yeah, thank you, Rosemary.
Yeah, I'm happy to share because I had a lovely group, and it was that we kind of, I think Martin, you mentioned that we kind of all normal people. Anyway, about the methodology, I like to do this exercise. I'm actually an active listening trainer, to be honest. Having said that, for me, 3 minutes of talking and only listening is not actually, that's only listening, but the active part comes in when we paraphrase what we've heard and paraphrase what we sense, the emotions, and that makes the active listening element, which is important. So we make sure that we actually understand the other person and they have a chance to correct. So that's kind of like, it's more of a dialogue. Still like an active listening, well, it's part of a dialogue that kind of switch roles once during a conversation. But also trying to not talk, like 100% talking and 100% listening. It's also interesting, especially we had like not language barriers, but maybe not language confidence in German and English, which was really lovely. And I'm so glad that we had a cool kind of room that we could still try our Denglish and everything. And I'm very happy with the group that I was with. Thank you, the 3 of you.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. And thank you for the feedback also, that we can always... Okay, and yeah, who wants to talk next? Can please raise the hand. I saw Carl, but yes, just use the hand raising button. But Carl, you are next.
Yeah, thank you. No, I liked very much that, because all the talking before between you and Sven went about how to act. And in fact, our talks were not about how to act. It was about how we feel about it, how we see ourselves, how we see the. In fact, it was about listening, and it's not so much, though even we spoke, it was not about speaking, it was about listening. And I found this very necessary, because before we so active, we so overfired in this world now, yes, of always, nee, we have to act, what to do. And just to listen, this was very nice, yeah. I liked it very much, and thank you for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you for the feedback. Dimitri.
So we're the opposite. I feel we were the workaholic group. Everybody who's here is probably deeply involved in things, and it's just great to come together and recharge, and sometimes get new inspirations. Yes, what others are doing, and so it was really refreshing to hear what people in my group are involved in, and we together already, okay, can we have a pad? Can we have the information together how to start the next thing? And it's both good, like to talk and also to have awareness of solutions and things happening, and the exchange as one way to get through. So and we also had people joining from further away, from Turkey, for instance, and making us aware, you know, there's a drought problem right next to where I live. There's a sea, there's a lake which is not a lake anymore. And so is there any inspiration? Can you give ideas? Please connect. And so yeah, this was great to have people from both who want to listen and people who want to come and exchange and talk. And so there was the wish, okay, how can we take this further and share resources? So if you have ideas, suggestions, please.
Yes, that will be one of the next steps that we cannot talk today, unfortunately, about, but we know that there's this desire of go further too. Is there still another person who would like to share?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I have to leave in 2 minutes. Okay. It was very important because I think the connection or interconnection between the people is very important, because they have many projects running, and the running projects have to connect together with all projects, and so we get more power in the driven activities against climate change. And important is that we have a connection between over the world and get the ideas from each others to enforce these ideas in a better manner. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Christian. Well, that's nice to have 3 more hands. I would say these 3 people can speak, and I would say Maria is next. So we have another female voice again.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm politically involved in the Green Party, and I noticed that, as opposed to other circles that I'm involved in, like permaculture, for example, in the political sphere, we very rarely interact like this on a personal level, where we really share like from the heart and we just listen and talk. And I think it is so, it really is replenishing my resources to do this. And I wish we could also in our political engagement do this much more often, because it's it gives me energy and strength, and I liked it a lot. So thank you.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear, Maria. Maurice.
Yeah, I knew this format, this method, because we use it quite often at Extinction Rebellion, and it's very valuable to not only do action and plan, but also to create a connection between the people. And this format is also known in the context of nonviolent communication. And it helps us to handle all these frustrations we have, and sometimes the hopeless feeling when we think, oh, nothing is moving, and we are not sure if we have any effect caused by our activities. And all these emotions need to have a place. And this is a reserved place and a secure and safe place to talk about these emotions. And this is a good method to give these emotions a voice.
Okay.
And additionally, we need to talk about actions and activities and to organize. But there needs to be a good balance between these 2 formats.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Okay, Joachim.
Yeah, thank you. I liked very much the approach that you chose through the emotions to talk about your own personal experiences. That's a very easy way to get to talk to each other. And so I appreciated that a lot. And I was very happy to meet, I'm 64 now, and to meet a young activist from Hamburg who's really pulling people to go out and to go to the demonstrations. And this was very inspiring for me. And I left the breakout room with thinking that maybe it is more important that we bring the older and younger generations together in a bigger way than before, and ignite our enthusiasm through that. Maybe more important than thinking about how explicitly to now, which is also important and should be done by other people, but like Sven was saying, connecting with the conservatives and the liberals, the European liberals. So the generation thing is one that interests me most. And thank you for the event tonight. Hope for continuations.
Yes, thank you, Joachim. And you raised a really good point. And I think the generational issue and the trauma issue of all of that, I think it will play a big role in the further methods that we can apply to get forward. And I just want to thank you all that you are reflecting with us today on this method and reflecting about the whole movement. And in that sense, we have a last input from one of the conveners of the group that is organizing these events. It's Charles, and he wants also to give us a little reflection on what we are doing right now and what this can contribute to civil society across borders. Charles.
Thanks a lot, Sarah, and thanks for everyone that participated. I think for all of us, it was quite an experience. And yeah, it's quite interesting to see that from the first event that we did like a week ago, we spoke a lot about emotions, anxiety, hope. Then we got to reflect on it ourselves today. And I mean, I'm only speaking for the group I was with, but we're like 3 different generations of people with quite the same feelings in the end, which is to say that it is very hard to have hope, that there is so many ways to get trapped within anxiety. And because of the medium that we're taking, because of the framework that we have, how we are getting reunited tonight, I wanted maybe to give a reflection on technology. I think that technology has like a big part in the climate debate normally, but in a completely different way. It would be this kind of like technological utopianism. Technology is going to solve everything, where we're going to be fine. And this deus ex machina that would just like solve climate change. And obviously, I guess all of us tonight know that it's pretty sterile to think in this way. And most of us, maybe as well, feel really alienated by technology. It's like it's such a big part of our life. It's Zoom meetings, it's WhatsApp, it's emails. It's very easy to get trapped within an alienated vision of technology. But to bind back about like the emotions that we could feel, I guess like technology is meaningful when it's exactly that. When it's people coming from like different countries that are able to speak about those kind of subjects. I mean, speaking only for myself, but having the capacity to speak with the people that I got to exchange with tonight could have never been possible without the technology, whether it is the subtitles of tonight, whether it is like the translation that we got last week. I think we can be humble, but give ourselves credit for that. Technology has a very big political potential when it's used in this way. And I hope we're going to be able to organize more events in this direction, to speak more about the kind of interactions that we can have across borders, where we have ties with each other, when we identify with each other across borders. I leave the word to Sarah, that is going to explain now a new way to engage even further with each other across borders. Thanks to everyone.
Thanks, Charles. But I really sense that people are getting tired now, and I totally understand it. It's 9:45. I was gonna tell you about a project which is called The Week, which is a method that you can try out. But for now, I'm just going to post the link to the website, and everything is explained there. It's a format that you can use with your friends to get into deeper conversations too, and to maybe find a way of finding common action ground. But I think I will just present this in another event more closely, so you can learn about it. But if you want, you can check it out. It's a thing that everybody could do with a circle of friends. It's an easy access thing, and it's also something that works with a method that we tried out today. We will send this to you all in also an email after this event, so you don't need to copy it now. It's called The Week. You find it on the internet, but we will send you the email, and you can check out the website. They explain it there. Because I really think it's enough for today. I think there was a lot of energy here in this session. I think everybody's tired. Mila's yawning. I thank you all so much for your willingness to try this, for your positive feedback, for your willingness to go on in this kind of direction. And I wish you a good night for today, and hopefully see you again.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.